Hey, welcome back to the Big Ranch Show. Thank you for joining me. Now today we're going to start off with some basic good news, and then it's going to kind of be downhill from there, but we'll get through this one and we'll get to the other side of it. So, first off, for a little bit of good news, we don't get a lot of that, but a Democrat was able to win the special election for George Santos's old seat, District 3, New York, for the U.S. House. It was Tom Suozzi versus um, Mozzie Phillip. Um, at in the middle of the evening, Phillip, she um, conceded the election, and Tom Suozzi was the winner. At the time that she said that she conceded the election, she was down by 10 points, exactly the same number of points that George Santos won the election with. So it was a complete switch. There was literally 10% of the people literally just switched back to the Democratic Party and gave the seat to Tom Suozzi. It just shows you how things are going for the Republicans right now, and how how angry Americans are getting with the GOP, especially the GOP in the House, where right now the GOP refuses to do anything. So Democrat Tom Suozzi wins the election, the special election. Of course, that could have implications in this fall's election, but we will see how it actually plays out. How do things change between now and November? But our Senate and our House are both kind of up for grabs this time, with numbers so close like they are. Anything could happen. I'm kind of hoping for the Democrats to hold on and, and be able to maybe take back at least the House, if not expand their lead in the Senate. Um, but it doesn't bode well for the Republicans when they lose a seat. Especially somebody that was running basically as a Trump candidate, even though she's pro-life, but on the abortion issue, she's like she doesn't want to push her religious views and her personal views on other people, and so that was a little different. But in a lot of stuff, she didn't want to support she wouldn't have supported the border bill. She wouldn't have supported um, money to Ukraine, and so there's a lot of other things that are going on with the GOP and the MAGA people, of course, with LGBTQ rights, women's rights. They're all about stripping those, all about taking those away from everybody. And there are even a number of them are pushing to, upend the decision that made, same-sex marriage legal in this country. So there's a lot of stuff coming down the pipe, and we got to see how it all lines up. But as of right now, since George Santos has left, the Republicans lost the seat, and the Democrats now have 213 representatives. The Republicans have 219 in the U.S. House. Speaking of the U.S. House, though, Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, far right, radical, religious nutcase, guy who has an app that he uses with his teenage son on keeping tabs of their porn watching. If that's not creepy. Um, he once again made a big, bold faced lie on national television. Yesterday, he told reporters that they can't bring the financial aid for the foreign aid for people like Ukraine, Israel, Gaza, and things like that because the Senate never sent them a border bill. Now, if you were here last week, you know for a fact that that's a bold-faced lie. Because you watched some of the videos last week, you know for a fact that the Senate passed a border bill and sent it to the House, and Mike Johnson killed it right away. Mike Johnson and the Republicans in the House, at the behest of Donald J. Trump, refused to do anything about the border. And that's where we stand. And now Ukraine's not going to get the military aid they need. The Gaza people in Gaza, of course, most Republicans don't give a crap about the people in Gaza. They're not going to get the $9 billion in aid that they would get. My biggest problem with the foreign aid bill is the fact that it gave 14 million to Israel, who doesn't freaking need it. And that's a story for later on this episode. But but all in all, it's a compromise, right? It was a compromise bill. It was a bill that the people in the Senate, Republicans, Democrats, worked on, just like the border bill. But the Republicans refused to pass it. As of now, Mike Johnson may be changing a little bit on this. He may bring some of these things to the floor because the American people are sick and tired of the U.S. House doing absolutely nothing. Literally, the U.S. House has done absolutely nothing under Mike Johnson's tenure. Nothing. We should have passed the border bill. We should still pass the border bill. We still have a chance to do that if the Republicans will get off their ass and do it. It's just like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who made a tweet earlier today, or a post on I saw on her Facebook page earlier today, showing that marking Texas and uh, New Mexico and stuff as Ukraine, Israel, and putting Mexico as Russia. Maybe saying maybe the Democrats will care. The Democrats will care. The Democrats are ready to vote for the bill in the House. There are almost 213, all 212 of them last week were willing to vote yes on that bill to get that bill done. And who didn't bring it to the floor? The Speaker of the House. And people, and Marjorie Taylor Greene was right there with him, supporting him not bringing it to the floor. Because her God, Donald Trump, said not to. These people are so scared to cross that old crooked man that they won't even do anything good for America. And no, Donald Trump, the president can't just sign an executive order to close down the border. They can't do that. There's called checks and balances, right? There's the Congress and there's the judicial, there's the executive branch, judicial branch, right? You got your three branches of government. There's checks and balances. You don't get to just do whatever the hell you want to. The legislative branch has to do their job. You can't just sit there and pass executive orders for everything. What it is Donald Trump doesn't want it to pass, and the Republicans don't want it to pass because it would help Joe Biden. Because Donald Trump wouldn't have anything to run on. He can't run on the economy. He can't run on the jobs numbers. He can't run on the stock market crashing. He can't run on any of that. All he has to run on is the fear of the other, the fear of immigrants. And that is it. And if Joe Biden was to get this passed, it would show that he could work with both sides of the aisle, and they don't want that. They also know as well, though, that if it came to a floor vote in the U.S. House, if it came to a floor vote in the U.S. House, they know for a fact enough Republicans would join with enough Democrats to get it passed. And they're scared of that. Because I believe both sides of the aisle fully understand that we must do something about the border. Now, I don't believe it's the crisis or the quote invasion that the GOP tries to make it out to be. Clearly, it's not, or they would have passed this bill in a heartbeat. But I do believe we need to make changes at the border. Previously, I've mentioned the ideas that I have to get more people to do it the right way. Now, in terms of other issues that have come up, The House Intel chairman has announced a serious national security threat, and it is related to Russia. Now, I'm going to read you a little bit from the CNN article here, just a little bit here. House Intelligence Committee Chair Mike Turner has made information concerning a serious national security threat available to all members of Congress, um, the committee said on Wednesday. While Turner and the White House have remained vague on what the threat entailed, two sources and a U.S. official told CNN that the threat is related to Russia. It has to do with very sensitive information that regards the ability for Russia to destabilize the military of European powers. This is a very big national security threat because not only could it affect Russia, it could affect us or affect Europe. It could really mess with us too. And so this is a very serious threat. They're saying they're taking it very seriously, supposedly, even though the Republicans seem to think Vladimir Putin and Russia are some kind of you know force for good in this world. I'm sorry to tell you, Vladimir Putin is an evil dictator, and that is what he has always been. He will never change. Vladimir Putin has for years wanted to reconstitute the Soviet Union. He has said so himself, and he mentioned it repeatedly. He's repeatedly lied about agreements made between the West and Russia when the Soviet Union fell, and he's continued to lie about Ukraine and every other nation around him so he can try and take over every single one of them. But now there's a security threat. Maybe Republicans will start to wake up to realize that Vladimir Putin is not a good guy, and neither in the Russian government is not good. I'm not going to sit here and say the U.S. government is great either, but as of yet, they haven't started just killing gay people here in the U.S. like they are in Russia. It's been a long time since we just invaded a country. Now, the problem is, what we did in 2003 by invading Iraq is exactly what created Vladimir Putin's belief that he should be able to just take over Ukraine. But that's another story for another day, which we will get to at some point. But right now, it's a very severe national security threat. Very sensitive right now. They're not releasing the information on exactly what it is. People are calling for the complete, declassification of this so everyone can know about it, not just the people in Congress. But we will see what happens. Watch this space, and I will try to bring you more updates on this later in the week if I hear anything else. Now on to a rather grim thing that's happened in the Israeli versus Hamas supposed war. But it underlines the fact that it's a genocide, not a war. But we'll get to that number in just a minute. Over the weekend, Palestinians were told to flee to Rafah as Israel is planning another big ground invasion type situation. But the problem is, Israel told the people to flee to Rafah, then they started bombing Rafah. How can you tell me you're trying to fight Hamas when you're blowing up children? How can you tell me you're fighting Hamas when you're just killing innocent people? How can you tell me it's a fight against terrorism when Israel is moving people further and further to the south, literally trying to push them into the sea or into Egypt? This is a genocide, clear as day. Around 30,000 dead people, dead innocent civilians. Over 12,000 of them are children. And there's the grim number. Not only have they killed almost right around 30,000 people, over 12,000 of them were innocent children. I know, Mr. Biden, you will never see this, but you need to demand a ceasefire, and you need to demand a ceasefire now. As much as I want to see money go to Ukraine to help them fight Russia, I don't want to see a dime going to Israel. If you're a longtime viewer of this channel, you know for a fact that I stand wholly against anti-Semitism, but I cannot support the government of Israel right now. In fact, if other nations started attacking Israel right now, I'd have to support them. And so, that said, I'm just absolutely distraught at the lives that have been destroyed in Gaza, while our government stands idly by and does nothing to stop it. I feel absolutely sickened that I am forced to vote for Joe Biden over this. But I don't have a choice. I have to vote for Joe Biden to protect our nation, knowing that Donald Trump will make it even worse for the Gazans. Now, I plan to start keeping updates going here about Israel, the border, and things like that. I'll keep making videos for the foreseeable future. I don't plan on going away anywhere. They may not be as consistent as 2 or 3 a week. Sometimes there'll be 2 or 3, or maybe even 4 a week. And sometimes there's just going to be one. It all depends on how the news goes. I do this for, to get information out to people. I do this as a place for me to have a place to vent. But at the same time, sometimes I just have to take a break. Um, so there's going to be weeks you may not see a video, but I'm going to try to keep going. I'm trying to get this channel to come back to life, and it seems that you know, maybe things are starting to look up a little bit. Some of my views are getting better on some videos, and it just depends on the topic. But anyways, this has been the Big Ranch Show. Thank you for joining me here at the real home for progressives.